Let's take a look at blood types and blood transfusions. So firstly, there's over 30 different blood groups that each of us have. But there's one that's really important, and that's what we call the ABO blood group. Now, there's many different blood types within that blood group, and we'll talk about it in a second. But the reason why it's important, unlike those other 30 odd, is because it's quite antigenic, meaning that they can elicit this blood type or set of blood, or these blood types can elicit an immune response that can be quite detrimental if a blood transfusion occurs and an incompatible blood type is given or received. So let's take a look at this blood group, the ABO blood group. Let's look at the blood types within this blood group, and then let's have a look at what happens when you perform a blood transfusion between these blood types. All right, so first thing is we've got some red blood cells here, some erythrocytes. This is a different person. Each person here, different individual. We're going to look at the different blood types for ABO. So first, on the surface of the red blood cell, on the erythrocyte, you can have a flag that's been waved, and this flag is an antigen, and it's a glycoprotein, so a sugar protein molecule. Effectively, there's different ones that you can have. So let's just say this red blood cell is waving its flag, or it has an exposed antigen, if we want to be more technical, that says, I am A. And this red blood cell has an antigen, or is waving a flag that says, I am B. And this one has a flag that it waves that says, I am A and I am B. And this red blood cell does not wave a flag at all. What we've just highlighted are the ABO blood types. This individual here is what you would call blood type A. This person is what we would call blood type B, this person is what we would call blood type AB, and this person is what you would call blood type O. The O stands for on, hope I'm getting that right, which is German for nothing. It's absent, there's no flag, there's no antigen present. So that's the first thing, that's how we designate these blood types. It depends on the antigen or flag that's being presented. Now, I like to use the Game of Thrones analogy, and for those of you that heard me use the Game of Thrones analogy, I think it's a bit dated because I asked everyone in the class, put your hands up if you watch Game of Thrones, and I think it was less than 10%. So I'm using the analogy anyway. If each of these individuals were a house, like the Lannister or Targaryens, they're different houses in Game of Thrones, right? Different families. If they've got this as a castle, and that's the flag they wave, right? They're saying, I am A. They're going to create an army or antibodies, right? They're going to create an army of antibodies that are trained to attack who? They're not going to be trained to attack the flag that they wave. They're going to be trained to attack anyone that waves a flag that they don't have. And there's only one other option, right? The only other option apart from A is B. So somebody who is blood type A or is waving the A antigen, they will have antibodies, right? So here are antibodies. They will have antibodies trained to attack B. So these are all B antibodies, or I should say anti-B antibodies, right? So they're floating through the bloodstream of this individual, right? They're floating through the bloodstream just in case they come across blood type B that might enter. Now, same thing goes, if you're blood type B, this is the flag you wave, you're going to train an army of antibodies to attack everything you don't have. What don't you have? The only thing you don't have is A. So let's draw up anti-A antibodies. So this person's bloodstream has anti-A antibodies floating through it. Brilliant. All right, let's think about this person, right? If they're waving the A flag and the B flag, what antibodies do you think they're going to produce? They're not going to create antibodies against A because they're waving it. It will attack themselves and destroy themselves. They're not going to create antibodies against B, so they don't have any antibodies against blood types in their blood plasma. That's important. Now let's look at O. What antibodies are they going to make? Well, they don't wave the A flag, so they're going to create A antibodies, and they don't have any B flag, so they're also going to create B antibodies. So this individual who has blood type O will be waving both A will have both A and B antibodies. They're going to be targeting to attack A and B blood. All right, so now we've got this. This allows for us to understand who can donate blood to and receive blood from. So let's think about it. So if I'm blood type A, this individual here, right? Let's just say they lose a lot of blood. They've been in a car accident, they've lost a huge amount of blood. They need more blood. They need more blood cells, right? So often, so you can give somebody whole blood, or probably more common is you give somebody compact red blood cells, right? So what is happening is that this person needs blood. You're going to take just the red blood cells out and give it to them. But if you're now throwing in B blood into this individual that's waving the B flag, right? What do you think that means? It means that these antibodies are going to attack and destroy the blood. So this person can't receive B blood. And the same reason why this person can't receive A blood. Now, what about if you're AB? Well, if this person is AB, they lose a lot of blood, let's give them B blood. Let's give them B blood. Well, there's no antibodies here to attack and destroy it, so they're cool with receiving B blood. Let's give them A blood. Well, they're cool with taking A blood. They can take that. There's nothing to target and destroy. Let's give them O blood. There's no flags. There's nothing to recognize with O blood. So if you're AB, you can receive everyone's blood. So aren't you lucky? Now let's have a look at O blood. This person's losing blood. We need to give them blood. Let's give them A blood. Well, we can't give them A blood because the A antibody will attack and destroy. All right, let's give them B blood then. No, can't do that because the antibody will attack and destroy it. All right, fine. Let's give them AB blood. There's an A flag and a B. Yeah, definitely can't do that because the A will attack, the B will attack. Yeah, can't do it. So what can they get? They can only get other individuals with O blood that don't wave any flag. So A can receive everyone's blood. It's recognized as the universal acceptor. As the universal acceptor. O is recognized as the universal donor, right? So these people are great to donate their blood, and these people are very lucky because they can receive everybody's blood. Now, this doesn't help with rhesus factor. This is an additional factor. You probably know that somebody can have A positive blood or A negative blood, right? So let's take a look at that. Okay, so rhesus factor. It's another flag, basically, right? So if you wave the rhesus, so rhesus named after the rhesus monkey where they discovered it. No, you sometimes see written as RH, or it's more commonly written as D. So it's D, right? If you see a D flag, that means they have rhesus factor. Now, if you have the flag, you are positive, right? So this individual, if they wave both the A flag and the D flag, the rhesus factor flag, they're recognized as being A positive. That's their blood type. If this person only waves the B flag and no rhesus factor or D flag, they're recognized as B negative. So what do you think this person's blood type is going to be then? That's right, it's going to be AB positive. And this person would be O negative, right? If I gave them a rhesus factor or D flag, that'd be O positive, okay? So now you've just added one layer of complexity. Now, similar to the antibodies with the ABO, if this individual here, right, they create antibodies against everything they don't have. This person doesn't have A, so here are the anti-A antibodies. You might also go, well, they don't have D, so they're going to have anti-D antibodies as well. The answer is yes and no. The difference here is this. You only develop your the antibodies against rhesus factor once you've been exposed to it. So for example, this person is naive to rhesus factor. So you could argue, right, if this person needed a blood transfusion, B negative, that if you could give them B positive blood, right? So there's the B, there's no anti-B antibodies, so they're cool. They can receive other B blood. But let's just say this person's blood that they gave was B positive. So they had rhesus factor. There's no rhesus factor antibodies here. So their first blood transfusion, they've received B positive blood. and they've been fine. But they're now exposed to the antigen, which means upon exposure now, right, they develop anti-D antibodies. Right, so this means they cannot receive any B positive blood ever again. Any blood with rhesus factor ever again. All right, they've been now sensitized is the term. So that's how it works for rhesus factor. I want to talk to you very briefly about what can happen with pregnant mothers, right? So there's something called hemolytic disease of the newborn. This is a condition that can happen when a mother is rhesus negative, but the baby is rhesus positive. So let's draw this up here, right? Let's just say, here is mum. And here's mummy's tummy, right? And let's just say that mum's red blood cells are B negative, right? So mum is B negative. And the baby, its blood cells are B positive. So the baby's B positive. Now here's the thing. When a mother has a child, this is the first child, the mother obviously needs to give nutrients and gases and take away wastes and all that sort of stuff. So blood, or I should say the products of the blood, get exchanged with the mother and the baby. But what doesn't get exchanged is the blood cells. So effectively, mum's immune system, right, doesn't get exposed to the baby's antibodies, right? And the mum's red blood cells don't get exposed to the baby's antibodies. They do exchange antibodies, right? But remember, mum with rhesus factor, you only develop them once you've been exposed to them. So this rhesus positive baby, this red blood cell never jumps into mum's bloodstream. So she never develops the antibodies for the first pregnancy, right? Doesn't develop them. So everything's all good. But when that baby is delivered, what can obviously happen are tears can occur. And when that baby is delivered, that red blood cell can mix with the mum's blood. And now the mum has been exposed to that rhesus factor after the first birth. So now what the mum has are anti-D antibodies floating through her bloodstream. She's now got antibodies that can target rhesus factor after the first baby, because when the baby's born, there can be tears and bleeds and the blood can mix. So let's just say that baby was born. That baby is now living a happy, healthy life. Nothing happened to that baby. But let's say mum gets pregnant again, right? So mum gets pregnant again, and let's say this second baby is also rhesus positive, just like this. Now here's the problem. From the last pregnancy, being exposed to the red blood cells upon the birthing process or tears and so forth, the mum developed antibodies. And the mum does give antibodies to the baby. So these antibodies do cross the blood placental barrier. And the rhesus factor antibodies will bind to, attack, and destroy the baby's red blood cells. This leads to a process called hemolysis. Lysis means to split apart. So the red blood cells split apart. The baby doesn't have any oxygen carrying capacity. He can get very, very sick. Okay? So what they would do is they would test to see if the mother is rhesus negative. They wouldn't necessarily bother testing the child, because then you'd have to do some more invasive procedures technically. So what they'll do is, okay, mum's rhesus negative. We're going to give her an injection when she's pregnant, and this injection is going to contain basically a product that can bind to the mum's rhesus factor antibodies, like anti-rhesus factor antibodies, and block them up. So that when they do jump into the baby's bloodstream, they can't recognize the baby's rhesus factor flag, the antigen. So the antibodies might still be in there, but they're all bound up and they can't target it for destruction. Okay, so that's called hemolytic disease of the newborn. So that's blood types and blood transfusions. Hopefully it makes sense.